Across the millions of videos on YouTube, a sinister trend festers and thrives in the hidden corners of the platform. What appears to be innocent entertainment is in reality a cruel and calculated operation. One where animals are used, abused, and discarded for clicks, engagement, and profit. This isn't a case of a few isolated incidents. It's an interconnected community of channels that thrive on deception and cruelty. Staged rescue videos that intentionally place animals in danger, so-called pranks where living creatures are treated as disposable props, and even outright torture disguised as innocent content. All of it designed to exploit society's most vulnerable for digital fame and financial gain. These channels aren't a recent phenomenon either. They've been lurking on YouTube since the platform's earliest days. And from the very beginning, exploited content has found its ways to thrive, evolving alongside YouTube's algorithms rather than being eradicated by them. While mainstream attention occasionally exposes a handful of offenders, the reality is that this problem has never truly gone away. Instead, it only became more sophisticated, more deceptive, and more profitable. Much like the infamous ElsaGate scandal, where bizarre and disturbing content disguised itself as kid-friendly entertainment, these animal abuse channels have mastered the art of deception. They craft an illusion of heroism, manipulating their audience into believing that they are saviors rather than the perpetrators. And the worst offenders are the so-called fake animal rescue channels, a genre built entirely on fabricated suffering. These videos follow a familiar formula: a helpless animal seamlessly trapped in a dire situation, perhaps buried under rubble, tangled in wires, or stranded in a dangerous place. And then, like clockwork, the camera pans to an anonymous rescuer who swoops in at the last moment, saving the day. The dramatic tension, the heartwarming resolution, it's all designed to pull at the audience's emotions. But what these videos don't show is the harsh reality. The suffering is staged. These animals are often placed in harm's way intentionally, all for the sake of manufacturing a feel-good moment that racks up millions of views. But while some channels go to great lengths to fabricate these dramatic moments, others don't even bother to hide their abuse. Other channels take things to another level, featuring explicitly disturbing thumbnails and videos that showcase the animal's suffering outright. There's no attempt to disguise it as a rescue. Instead, the abuse itself is the selling point that attracts an audience that's just as bad as the creators. These videos depict animals being put in uncomfortable, degrading, and sometimes outright dangerous situations, often framed with unsettling or suggestive themes. Whether it's the grotesque sexual undertones in the content or the outright cruelty displayed in the thumbnails and clips, the intent is clear: shock value, exploitation, and profit. And yet these channels remain monetized, promoted, and thrives under YouTube's algorithm. And yet, despite years of reports, investigations, and widespread outrage, YouTube refuses to take meaningful action. And while smaller channels or independent creators are swiftly demonetized or removed for far less, these large-scale exploitive channels continue to operate untouched. They rebrand, create new accounts, and adapt their tactics to evade bans, knowing full well that the platform's enforcement is inconsistent at best and non-existent at worst. So this leads us to a question: why does YouTube allow this? Is it negligence, or is it the simple reality that the controversy and emotional manipulation drive engagement, keeping users glued to the platform? Either way, the result is the same. Real animals suffer, audiences are deceived, and abusers profit. The first channel we're going to cover is one I've already talked about on the channel, that being Maymay. When I first covered this channel, it was one of the most unsettling things I've ever came across on YouTube. A channel supposedly dedicated to dogs, yet almost every thumbnail and title revolved around sexually suggestive themes, disturbing implications, and blatant exploitation of the animal. The content was unchecked and thriving under YouTube's nose. After my video exposing this channel, they quickly removed most of their videos, likely hoping to dodge further scrutiny. And for a moment, it seemed like they were done. Maybe that even YouTube had finally stepped in. But as we've seen time and time again, these kinds of exploited creators, disappearing is just part of the cycle. Now they're back, and despite their short-lived absence, nothing has really changed. The same unsettling undertones, and the same engagement from an audience that shouldn't even exist. And if anything, the fact that they've returned so quickly without facing any real consequences just highlights how fundamentally broken YouTube's moderation system really is. Most of their videos were privated or deleted, except for a few of their most popular ones, including Funny Dinosaur Play with Dog Mom, just one of the many that still carry the same disgusting implications. But at first glance, it may seem like they have toned things down, posting new content that appears more mild, just simple footage of their dog, without anything overly disturbing. But if you remember Cat Cup Q, Feeder's channel we previously discussed, it now looks like they've shifted their worst content there instead, which is strange considering that before Cat Cup Q was the channel posting the less extreme videos. And now it seems like the roles have reversed, with the most disturbing material quietly resurfacing on the secondary channel. Even on their main channel, they still have highly questionable videos left untouched, including the mating video and multiple uploads featuring thumbnails that are close-up shots of the animals' privates. And it doesn't just stop there. The channel even has a playlist titled Cats Mating, which unsurprisingly is filled with Cat Cup Q's videos, all sharing the disgusting thumbnails and content. And it's obvious that this person hasn't learned a thing. They aren't stopping, they're just adapting. And as long as YouTube refuses to take real action, they will continue to exploit the system, unchecked and unpunished. And as if the return wasn't bad enough, Maymay and Cat Cup Q have now expanded their reach with yet another channel, Dog Dip Doo. Instead of stopping after being exposed, they've simply created new spaces to continue posting the same disturbing content. Dog Dip Doo follows the exact same pattern, close-up shots of animals' privates, thumbnails designed to attract a certain kind of audience, and video titles that carry the same disgusting themes. And it's clear, rather than taking any accountability or stopping their exploitation, they're just moving it around, creating new channels to throw off attention while continuing business as usual. And this is the reality of YouTube's failure to act. These people don't stop, they multiply. They create feeder channels, swap content between accounts, and constantly shift their tactics to stay ahead of moderation. And because YouTube's enforcement is so weak, this cycle continues unchecked.
Not every channel on YouTube that's abusing animals is getting direct income from YouTube. Everything I have to say for this is alleged. I'm not making any of these statements as fact. I have to say that as I know this company might take legal action. While looking at the John Harwood channel, at first glance, it's nothing too concerning. But as you dig deeper, you find out how concerning this really is. For the last 7 years, there have been videos uploaded to this channel of animals inside of small boxes being contained and abused. At first glance, you might not recognize this type of thing as abuse, but you can tell by the movement of these animals that there is abuse happening. As someone who grew up around farms and ranches, I know how animals act when they're being treated properly versus improperly. Containing exotic animals like this is already sort of unethical in its own right. But it gets worse when you see everything that's happening. You can even see that some of these animals are wounded. These animals are already uncomfortable being contained in a small space. And then, the people cause noises banging on metal and slamming the doors, making the animal go crazy. You can tell that these animals are being tortured. But these aren't uploaded on YouTube just for the sake of being YouTube videos, and they don't get enough views to make money. So what is this all for? Welcome to the website wildlifebuyer.com. This website is an exotic animal auction website, and we can see here on one of the listings that it links to a YouTube video. A YouTube video, unsurprisingly, uploaded by the very channel we're discussing here. This website can be confirmed to be owned by the person we're talking about just by searching his name. You will find a court case about defamation with the name of the website he owns. This is exactly why I said everything I'm saying is alleged, because it doesn't seem like they shy away from these types of things when people are talking about them. So everything is alleged, but I want you to look at this and tell me what you think. I'm going to show you what a real exotic animal auction looks like and a normal livestock auction. On screen, I'm showing you a few different livestock auctions as well as exotic wildlife auctions. You can see that while the animals are still not comfortable in this environment, and some people find this type of thing to be unethical, it is a practice that happens. You can see that they lightly tap them with a padded rod. This doesn't hurt the animal. They hit them to move them in a certain direction so that people can see all sides of the animals. This can be unethical in itself, but that's not what we're talking about here. This doesn't hurt the animal, and they're a little bit afraid, but not super scared. And they're not being deliberately scared like they are in those other videos. There's no way that the John Harwood channel is just trying to show off all sides of the animal. If that was the case, they could do it easily, like these people are. I see no reason that these animals need to be treated this way, just to make a sale. They could display these animals in a way more ethical way. I feel like there is something demented behind the people doing this. The next channel we will talk about is Green Forest Life TQ. And now I can't confirm for sure that these people are setting these animals in disturbing situations and rescuing them, but I would be inclined to believe this as it's been a trend on YouTube for quite some time now. Throughout these videos, you see animals in distressing situations, often tied up. Some of them are even dead. What I think is happening here is the people in these videos are actually doing this to the animals and then pretending to rescue them for the sake of views. And boy oh boy are they getting views, with this video having 10 million views. What makes me more inclined to believe this is in one of their videos it shows a dog being glued to a piece of paper. The man in the video is pulling the dog off of the paper. But after the intro, it starts the sequence where he's going to rescue the dog. Interestingly, he gets a call from somebody who's already standing by the dog that says the dog needs help.
Hello?
With the highly edited cinematics and the music input to drive emotion, I do not believe that these animals actually needed rescuing to begin with. I believe that the people in the videos set them in these situations and are essentially torturing animals for views. And it doesn't really matter how many people report these types of videos. My experience with YouTube is that they will do little to nothing. No matter what I find on YouTube, I don't think anything will ever match the disturbing level that the child abuse that I discovered will. And in a video, I talk about this child abuse and brought light to it. And my audience mass reported a lot of the videos, but only 2 channels were removed out of the 12 that I talked about. This shows me that YouTube either cares very little about the moderation of their platform, or they don't have a big enough team to get rid of this disgusting stuff. If I was YouTube, I would have multiple teams dedicated to only taking care of this, but even with mass reports, it still seems to live on their platform. Something should be done about this, but in my personal opinion, I don't think anything will.
And unfortunately, this isn't about one series of channels. There are countless others posting disturbingly similar content, all hiding in plain sight on YouTube. And even after exposure, these channels continue to operate, adapt, and find new ways to evade consequences. Take FunKH Daily for example. Their content follows the exact same formula: videos featuring close-up shots of animals' privates, inappropriate themes, and an audience that seems disturbingly engaged. These thumbnails aren't accidental, they're deliberately designed to attract a very specific type of viewer, pushing the same grotesque themes that should never be allowed on the platform. But what's even worse than channels like that are those that blur the line between disturbing animal content and outright personal involvement. One of the most unsettling examples is JJ Couch TV, a channel where a woman frequently allows her dog to get in sexually suggestive positions with her. The thumbnails alone are incredibly inappropriate, often featuring herself with the dog in highly suggestive poses, clearly meant to imply something much darker. The fact that this content is not only allowed, but was pushed on my For You page on YouTube speaks volumes about how broken the system is. These creators know exactly what they're doing. They frame their content just enough to avoid triggering YouTube's moderation, all while attracting the audience that should never even have a place on this platform. And just like the other channels we covered, it will continue to thrive because YouTube, again, refuses to enforce its own rules. And at this point, it's impossible to call this an accident. These channels have existed for years, posting this type of content openly with no real consequences. And the longer YouTube allows them to exist, the more of a problem this issue will become. So this again leaves us with another question. How many more of these channels are out there? How many are still flying under the radar? Because if history has shown us anything, the platform won't act unless they're forced to do so. And again, this isn't an isolated case. YouTube has a long history of allowing disturbing exploitive content to fester while punishing those who expose it. We saw it happen with Elsagate, where content thrived for years before YouTube was forced to act. We saw it happen when Nick Crowley initially exposed fake animal rescue channels, proving that many of these so-called heroes were actually the ones putting animals in danger. And what happened? The abusers faced no real consequences, and Nick, on the other hand, received community guideline strikes. And now we're seeing it again. These channels don't just survive, they adapt. They scrub their most incriminating content, lay low for a while, and then resurface under new names, on new channels, or by shifting their worst content elsewhere. And even worse, they aren't operating alone. They actively promote and associate with similar channels, forming a network of exploitive content creators who thrive under YouTube's failure to enforce its own policies. And the reality is simple. YouTube doesn't take meaningful action because there's no incentive to do so. In some of the most bizarre cases, these channels are even monetized. They generate engagement, and unless a massive public backlash forces YouTube's hand, they remained untouched. And better yet, why is there not a clear report option for animal abuse on YouTube? And this is why the problem never goes away. The people who create this content know how to game the system, and YouTube, either through incompetence or indifference, allows them to do so. The cycle repeats itself over and over. Channels get exposed, delete a few videos, pretend to change, and then come back and continue the same thing. So what happens now? How long will YouTube ignore this? How many times do these channels have to be exposed by the platform's own creators before something actually changes? And honestly, there's a very high chance that this video gets restricted or taken down, and I honestly don't care if this video gets me in trouble with YouTube. If speaking out about this gets me demonetized, so be it. If it gets taken down, then all that proves is how backwards YouTube's priorities really are. I find it absolutely insane that it takes an arm and a leg from the platform's own creators to get issues like this recognized. Because at the end of the day, if YouTube punishes the people exposing this content rather than the ones creating it, that just tells you everything you need to know.